Press that. All right. So just to do a quick introduction, my name's Allie, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Vidcode. Excited to be talking to a small group of various Girl Scout councils. And today we'll just be doing a quick introduction and demo to the Vidcode coding courses, the curriculum, how the Girl Scouts leadership curriculum builds into that, as well as badges and different types of, programming, everything from one day to a weekend to a week to a semester to a summer-long intensive and beyond. So that will be our focus today. And yeah, for whoever wants to shout it out or share, or feel free to share in the chat too, which councils are you guys calling in from? Oh, I see we've got Wisconsin Southeast. Yay! I'm from...
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect. I love it. I'm from Minnesota originally, so I'm getting ready to go back to the snow. I can't wait. Good. Well, I will go ahead and kick off the demo here, and then I'll just kind of segue into just asking you guys about your programming and your goals, and I can share a little bit about Vidcode and how we work with different councils, troops, volunteers, all across the board today. So let me start with the demo. One sec. Great. Welcome. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. All right, and I'm going to navigate to the Vidcode. All right, so I'm on the Vidcode homepage here, and this is a good place to start. I'm at vidcode.com, and this is where any Girl Scout staff member or volunteer can log in to create your own free account. Can everyone see my screen here? Let's see, let me just check.
I can.
Oh, it's paused. I just moved my, sorry guys, one sec. Let me share it. All right. I'll close out. Okay, so here I am on the Vidcode homepage, and if you already have an account, you can log in here. You can also create an account. Again, if you're a Girl Scout volunteer or staff member, and if you're logging in that respect, log in as an educator or guardian. This will give you access to additional tools to track learning and all that good stuff. And then girls and troops and all that good stuff should sign up as students. Easiest for them to sign up after an educator has, because you'll get a class code that will link your girls to your account. So just food for thought. They can also sign up first and join in other ways, but good to get your account started, even if you're just exploring Vidcode or going to pass on the word. You can sign up as an educator. I'm going to go ahead and sign in with email. Let's see, I'm just going to log in. All right, and so once you log in or create an account, you'll have access to two different actions here. One is you'll be able to start coding. And this will take you to the student portal, which is also a great place for volunteers and staff to prepare for a course, kind of do the tutorials themselves first. And then we have the class dashboard, which is the educator or guardian place where all the rosters and analytics and progress and all that good stuff's in here. I'm going to quickly point to the lesson plans, because they're a little bit hidden, but it's a really important part of the curriculum. This whole first 10 hours of Vidcode, that's kind of what this represents here, is all available to you guys for free. and it complements the badge work if you're looking at the badges as well. And so click into one of these PDFs. And this is just a really good cheat sheet. Oh, excuse me. My new mouse has me. Okay, perfect. Yep, this is a good cheat sheet for, again, you know, the adult who's leading the workshop. This is used by a lot of classroom teachers as well. We have thousands of educators, I would say 80% of whom have never really coded before, or who are just getting into it themselves. And so we've really given, you know, the adults in the room all the info they would need to quickly prep the night before or the summer before their workshops begin. And then the day of, it's got everything you would need, suggested agendas. You know, in a workshop, how Vidcode usually works is starts with the discussion, especially our Girl Scouts curriculum. You know, if you're using the badge work through the Girl Scouts platform, there is meeting agendas in the kind of Girl Scout format. And then if you enter directly through Vidcode, you'll just have access to more coding work. And then the lesson plans are in this format, and we'll give you kind of, again, this is a classroom suggested time, but 45, 60-minute period here. About half of it's coding and half of it's off the computer, sharing, reflection, code journals, lots of fun stuff. And in here, you have all the information to run that classroom in that way. You also have a sample solution. So a lot of our volunteers and educators, especially if they're super busy and maybe didn't have a chance to prep before the workshop that day, you can kind of pull up this sample solution, maybe cover up part of the code, and just show the girls, this is what we're going to create today. And I'll show you guys how we create this. But we're going to create, you know, in this case, what it is our own video filter with code. We're going to be learning about computer science, and you're going to make a filter that kind of looks like a snowstorm. So start thinking about what images or concepts that you want to bring into the project. Just a really simple, easy way to start a really in-depth learning experience with girls that is a multi-layered learning experience in that they're being highly creative, highly conceptual, but also learning the most popular web programming language there is, which is JavaScript, very core programming language. So lots of fun stuff. Now I'm going to show you guys how this little snowstorm was created. So I will go back to the My Classes portal here. I'm going to go into the Start Coding button, where I can go into the self-guided tutorials. And we just looked at the creative filter lesson plan. So actually the thumbnail looks kind of similar to that snowstorm. So we're going to go into this particular lesson. Now this is the coding workstation. This is the very first tutorial, just to give you an idea of the content on Vidcode. There's over 120 tutorials like this. They're all open-ended, they're all creative, and chock full of standards-aligned computer science and web programming curriculum. So pretty neat stuff. And every single tutorial starts with the same action, which is you get to upload an image or a video that matters to you. So let's say, you know, maybe it's a selfie you're starting this particular project with. So again, we're in the first tutorial. You upload your image, you select it, and immediately what we have going on here on Vidcode in the center here, which is the code editor. This is a professional grade web editor that we have in our learning portal here. And so it's showing, you know, the user here what JavaScript made that image appear on this web page. And so it's really cool. And then we're starting to take the next step. This is just the very first step. And we're going to start dragging and dropping. This is something schools love about Vidcode. We start with a drag and drop environment. Immediately you see this really cool change on your creative artifact to the right. And we're starting to learn via these very visual associations some pretty big programming concepts. And so for instance, I'm going to go to this next action. I'm going to drag in a second line of code. which is a tint color. I'm starting to learn about order of operations. I can experiment a little bit. What happens if I erase code? What happens if I add something? I'm learning what a function is, which is a big vocab word for computer science. So we're introducing it in this tutorial, and then it's rinsed and repeated all throughout the next 30 to 40 tutorials in different ways with different challenges. In this particular tutorial, the next action the girls are going to take is to select the hex color that they would like their filter to be. So maybe they're feeling blue today. One of my favorite kind of challenges or lessons is, it's kind of cheesy, but it never gets old for me, is, you know, make a postcard or a portrait of yourself that reflects your mood that day or that week. It just can be a really fun kind of icebreaker. And so the next step is we're learning associated with that hex color comma, there's this number, and it's not just a number, it's a value. And in computer programming, numbers are so powerful, they are related to so many other parts of the program. And in this case, this number is associated with controlling the intensity of that hex color. And so again, this is a multi-layered learning. So much is happening in these first couple steps. And there's a lot of interaction design here as well. A lot of design thinking that goes into Vidcode. So something to consider. I know a lot of Girl Scout councils that leverage us have very thematic programming. So design is a very easy plug and play with Vidcode. If you have existing animation courses or video editing, keyboarding, all that stuff, very often in schools we're integrated with those types of courses. And we're just kind of like bringing the in-depth coding side. That's just as fun. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here just to kind of round out the demo, but as the girls build their skills, they do start freestyle coding, as I like to call it, in a scaffolded way. Again, this is kind of step maybe tutorial 4 to 10. They start learning to place text on the screen. They start learning to animate that text. They're learning motion graphics. They're learning interaction design. They're learning user-computer interaction, all through these really fun, self-expressed projects. And that's something, a thread you'll see through our whole curriculum. So just wanted to introduce that today. I'll go ahead and kind of complete this project. I can either save it or publish it. Everything on Vidcode is very private. That's important to know. I know a lot of, especially our students, you know, it's kind of a, when your first coding projects, you're not always ready to share them. So save, let your teacher know you're still working on it, and publish, let your teacher know that it's done. And that's how private Vidcode is. It doesn't publish to a big classroom gallery or anything. Everything's completely private. That being said, there are ways for educators to create curated galleries of their students' work. So it's a really nice environment. But I'll go ahead and publish this. I'm going to view the project. And let's see here. All right. So it exports, I like to say, kind of like a YouTube video, kind of like a Scratch project. Best of both worlds from my point of view. And it's awesome. They have their creative artifacts to the left, their code to the right. They can share this in so many different ways safely. So this exported project isn't associated with their profile or anything like that, or any of their information. And they can share it as a unique URL via link, just copy paste. They can also embed it into other sites or projects, or if you guys have a WordPress site or anything that takes embeddable, you know, Squarespace, all that good stuff. There you go. So, and we're always looking ways to improve, you know, sharing projects with parents and stuff. So just to continue the project thread, if you guys sign up for your own account, you can actually, I keep forgetting it's on the main page too. Highly recommend just navigating to the projects page. It has a lot more examples, especially going into some of our more higher level work. We might have a range of grade levels here, or girls. So for Vidcode, Girl Scouts really start with Vidcode 4th grade and up, 5th grade and up. 6th grade and up. It definitely depends a little bit just on you. Oops, sorry, there's someone here. I want to make sure I get them in. Okay, got it. Thanks for your patience there. But yeah, so just in terms of grade levels with Vidcode and age level, we're really perfect for middle school girls, great for upper elementary school girls, great for especially the beginning of high school, because this could be a total, we're actually an AP Computer Science Principles class, so you can do a kind of prep course in that respect. There's a lot of in-depth material. And so I know some of the councils that we work with, you know, like the fact that different girls, even individually, can self-elect into this curriculum after a workshop, maybe a 1-day workshop, maybe a 2-day workshop. And then the girls who want to go deeper, you know, either kind of move into a 10-week after school program or either have access individually to it remotely as well. Also really easy to do drop-in experiences with Vidcode, and I'll show you that kind of leads us back to the class dashboard, which I want to finish the demo with. And so when lots of easy ways to add girls safely to an educator account. This is what I mentioned at the beginning of the demo. But you can, if you're having an in-person program, simply put these 4 to 5 words on the board and have girls sign up. They should use an email account. They can make up a, you know, fake email for this platform if need be. So we can, if you guys have questions about that, feel free to reach out. And then progress. This is, I was talking about drop-in experiences, and this is something we do work with a lot of libraries as well as schools. And I know this is important for after-school programs as well. But yeah, really easy for the volunteer, or staff member, or educator to track girls' progress virtually through each unit. And so this is the unit we've kind of been focused on today. We were focused on this creative filter tutorial. And if we continued to move through this unit, which you all have access to, it'd be about a week of material in a kind of 1 hour long classroom experience. It could be stretched out if you do a lot more like creative kind of making for the content that the girls upload, which is really cool and fun to do, and something especially a lot of our Girl Scout troops do, more filmmaking, more, you know, digital art making that before they upload that image. I mean, I would love to do a whole nother webinar on that because the possibilities are endless, and there's a lot of great examples. In the projects tab, you'll see many of those. And then there's, it should be called portfolio, but this is the personal projects tab, which has your projects as an educator. There are little quizzes just to check learning along the way. We talked about the lesson plans. And finally, I'll finish up with Showcase. This is a tool that we built to help volunteers and staff members create showcases of student work in a really safe, fun way that's easy to share with your community. So with that, I will finish up the demo. Any questions about the website, functionality, curriculum, or anything like that before I stop the share? Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen share. All right, and I know, let's see, we have gone a little bit over time there. Let me just double check. Yes, thank you guys. I know, just want to take a little extra time to talk about that. And let me just check the chat. Okay, so, and we've got a little bit bigger group now than we started with. Thanks again for everyone joining. Happy to hear, you know, if there's any kind of questions that you guys have about your council specifically, or STEM programming that you're doing, or questions about the coding curriculum or badges, feel free to shout it out now. I'll also give my email for follow-up questions. All right, perfect. Okay, great. I'm going to read this one out loud. I'm interested in finding out what other councils are doing how they're organizing their workshops and content covered. Yeah, absolutely. I that's one thing I love about these calls is sometimes it comes up, but I can definitely share from my side as well because I've worked with a ton of troops and councils over the last 5 years with Vidcode. Um, and I was part of the team that co-developed the 6th through 12th grade coding badges for the social impact Girl Scouts coding badges. So, and the first way I would answer this question is every council, and it's the same with schools and libraries, is doing something different, is in an experimental phase, which is really cool. It's definitely kind of very like wild west space that everyone's kind of trying new things, emulating, and that's why it's really important to start sharing information about what experiments people have tried and what's worked. The most long-standing project that we've had, which kind of launched actually our work with Girl Scouts, I'll use this as a case study, is Girl Scouts of New York City or of Greater New York. And we have a 10-week to 20-week after school program. So girls can either do the 10 or the 20, half a year or full year. It's 2 hours a week after school per semester. And it builds up to a film festival. And it's really cool because that 2 hours, they do build in a lot more film. There's more of a filmmaking slant for this program. It's called Breaking the Code. And they spend a good amount of time building concepts for films in that first hour. And then they spend the second hour on Vidcode, making it interactive, putting it on the web, all that good stuff, and learning computer science and JavaScript, building up those skills throughout the semester. And that's actually the way the Vidcode curriculum works as well. These 10-hour units that we have that I kind of quickly demoed today, each of those 10-hour units has a final project. So it's very easy for councils to say, if you're doing a 1 or 2, however long your workshop is, 1, 2, 3 days a week, you can use that kind of 10 unit curriculum to build up to a final project. And it's what a lot of our councils do. And so that 10 to 20 week program is quite common. I would say the most common is a summer intensive, 1 week long. That's been probably since the early days, which for us was 5 or 6 years ago. What we saw is a really high quality experience for a lot of the Girl Scout troops that we work with. And actually the 10 to 20 week programming in New York City has a paired 1 to 2 week summer intensive as well that complements that year-long program. And so I think both of those models, the 1 week summer intensive and the 10-week after school, have been really successful. Some of those do, require grant funding and that type of support, and typically have a staff member at the council who's organizing it in terms of the sites on the ground. So this is something I've talked about on a lot of our Girl Scouts calls, is that's been helpful. I mean, there's definitely been a huge, and we've made it more and more efficient throughout the year, but essentially what we do at Vidcode is we train the Girl Scouts of Greater New York, like one staff member, and then they have a couple freelance educators within different public schools in New York City. Those school sites are ones that don't have a lot of Girl Scouts, so it's kind of a recruiting program almost, which is kind of neat. But, every city is different. I know New York City can be specific. A lot of our smaller cities or kind of mid-sized cities councils elect into doing more of a kind of single site, not grant funded projects. So there's lots of different ways to do that. This is a very common model for libraries as well, which is to launch like a hackathon day with free content or a week-long workshop with free content. There's so much free content out there to do that. And then if you get the interest on your council side to do more, there's, at least with Vidcode, there's a $600 account. So if you have a single volunteer staff member who really wants to lead the way, that's an unlimited educator account, so you can impact a lot of girls. We also have a $2,900 site license account. We work with a lot of councils in that way. It's kind of like a small school district for us. And we virtually train a cohort of 1 to 7 staff and volunteers, help create goals. And that's a really experimental space. Typically, those staff members are doing a lot of different things, don't know how it's going to turn out. But that $2,900, which is basically a full day of in-person PD, is used to kind of allow the Vidcode team to help coach and mentor and offer like 24-hour support and one-on-one webinars throughout that year. And that's something that's a pretty lightweight model that we found to be able to add a human element to the coding curriculum. Because obviously there's a lot of coding content out there. And so I think, yeah, lots to talk about, but those are a really common kind of success stories that we've seen with Girl Scout troops, as well as, you know, some libraries and schools as well. Great. Yes, absolutely. So thanks for that question. That was a really great question. And it's a perfect thing to talk about. It's a hard one to answer. You know, before I'm going to wrap it up, I know we went, we're kind of up to the last minute here. If anyone has any last minute questions, grant opportunities. So how Vidcode does that. So typically when we're working with a council like Girl Scouts of Greater New York, they find the opportunity and we're written in as like a curriculum provider, digital platform. We provide research data and we provide professional development for their staff. So we're typically written in on any of their kind of STEM or STEAM grant initiatives. And that's commonly the way it happens with other councils as well, and schools for that matter. And so where can you find them? I mean, we're definitely not the experts on that, but we do get passionate about it. So we love, if you are in a specific city or state, you know, because we work with schools and libraries, and because we're not a nonprofit, we can't, you know, we don't work with foundations and all that kind of stuff. So we're always happy to refer them to you, refer those opportunities. But there's so many more that you can find on your own. So it's kind of a little bit of a collaboration in that sense. So awesome. Such great questions. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I will send a summary email with some of our Hour of Code activities. It's not too late to use them. That's a great way to try out the Vidcode curriculum. And I'll also send some PDFs with more information. And then if your council, if you think there's more interest in this coding curriculum, or you guys have some initiatives coming up right away you want to talk about, we can just set up a follow-up webinar, 15, 30 minutes, and yourself and however many members of your team can join as well. So thank you all again for joining today. Take care.